Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey. And tonight we got a little Week 10 review, go over some of the top performers of the day. And actually, man, it was kind of a weird day in the NFL, I would say. You got Dallas just beat Philly. Patriots lost to Tennessee. Cleveland beats Atlanta. Just kind of interesting in the Buffalo. Geez, putting up 41 points. What the heck did that come from? That one bothers me, actually. I played the Jets D in a couple different leagues. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they found something with Barkley, actually. But I highly doubt it. It is. It was a very weird one, and it led to a lot of feast or famine for fantasy players. You've seen it. You scored a unbelievable amount of points this week, or you're a few of the teams that really, really struggled. It was a very interesting week.
Yeah, so we'll just go through some of the top guys here. We'll start with running backs, and Nick Chubb ended up being the top standard scoring running back for the week, with 176 yards rushing, 33 receiving, caught a touchdown, and ran in a touchdown. One was the 92-yard touchdown run, which definitely boosted his day, but 32.9 in standard. And this is one of the reasons we talked this guy up in the preseason. We knew if he got a shot, he'd be pretty good. And since he's become the guy here the last 4 weeks, he's been pretty good. This is even better than normal.
Yeah, what's not to like? You look at the amount of times they're giving him the ball. They haven't shied away from what they were doing with Hyde. 18 or above carries in the last 4 games. With that kind of output, there's no doubt he's going to put some points up on the board.
Yeah, and he has a whole bye week coming up, but then his schedule's decent. It's nothing crazy. He should continue to do this, and Cleveland's a better team than they were before. That's for sure. David Johnson actually made his way up on the list again, 30.3, and he ran the ball 21 times for 98 yards, a touchdown, caught 7 balls for 85 and a touchdown. And I think the offensive coordinator change has been huge for him, and they're looking to get him the ball now receiving. Kansas City, though, I guess hasn't been the greatest defensive team this year. Their offense has been amazing, but defensively they haven't really been very good, I would say that. They were actually probably one of the worst against running backs. So we should have expected a good game from David Johnson, but it's at least encouraging, I would say, for Johnson owners. Coming up, he has Oakland, the Chargers, Green Bay, Detroit, Atlanta. It's a pretty decent schedule for him.
Yeah, once again, there's not a whole lot more you can say. You were hoping that the coaching change was going to help. It did. He runs the ball well. He catches it well. The fact is, moving down, do you feel like he is going to be in the position with that offense to be able to get in the end zone, which, down the playoff run, you absolutely need, someone that can get in the end zone. You can't just rely on yards the whole time. That'll be the big question. But, if today answered anything, that is definitely going to be in the realm of possibility.
And then Aaron Jones is the next guy on the list. Finally. 29.2 in standard, 50, still only 15 carries. Still not getting the 20-some carries, but turned it into 145 yards and 2 touchdowns. Another reason we've been hyping this guy up in these last 3 weeks. He's had 12 carries for 86 yards and a touchdown. Then he went 14 for 75 and then 15 for 145. He's good. Again, I just feel like if he got 20-some carries a game, he'd be up here every time.
Yeah, and do you think that they're gonna, after a monster game like this, everyone will speculate that Green Bay is gonna give him a few more touches? Do you think he's still gonna kind of shift around this 12 to 15 touches, or do you think he has a shot at 20?
I think this might just be where he's at, but it's not even that they're going anywhere else. I feel at this point, it's just this is how they're, running the offense. They don't. He had the 15. After that, Jamal Williams had 3 carries. That's it. Aaron Rodgers, I guess, has 6, but, it's different.
Yeah,
they only ran the ball 18 times then, and he had 15 of the 18. He's getting the majority of them, so it's just going to depend on the game and if he's going to get more carries or not, but he's going to get the majority of them for the team. Just they don't really run the ball a lot, and like I say, they threw it here not even a lot either. It's just an interesting game. Only 19-28 for Rodgers, so maybe one of those. But Jones is good, and I wouldn't. You don't hesitate putting him in your lineup anymore.
No, definitely not.
You actually had him against me in a league.
I did, yeah. Well, it doesn't look like that's going to turn out well for me anyway. But.
We'll see. I need 2 yards from George Kittle tomorrow night. That's it.
Yeah,
just 2.
I put up a lot of points in all of my leagues this week, but I think I'm still going to miss on 2 of the victories.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to end up the top 2 scorers in our. Well, there's actually one other team beat us out, but either than that, we'll either be first and third or second and third this week. So, and you're going to get one of us will lose, being the third best. It's always a disappointing feeling.
Yeah, isn't that the way the cookie crumbles, if you will? But yeah. Speaking of people coming back, everyone freaking out about Mark Ingram. Alvin Kamara had another good game, 22 points, but Mark Ingram, same thing,
22.2, the same as Kamara, and their carries are pretty much the same, 13 for Ingram, 12 for Kamara, but Ingram actually got a couple catches, turned one into a touchdown. He looked pretty decent, and they just rolled over Cincinnati. He's never going to probably get much more than 13 carries a game kind of thing, but that's some weeks it's going to turn into something. Others it's not, though. That's the problem with Ingram. You don't quite know which week will be which. And it's probably, I don't know. I think you start him if you don't have any other better options, which I'm in one of those positions where I don't. And a lot of people don't have better options than Mark Ingram with the way the running backs are this year. So I think you just start him and you hope you get these weeks. Like he did Washington, he did this one.
Yeah, I don't know too many guys that would be able to start ahead of him. Yeah, I mean, he definitely does have a higher risk for bust factor, but this is what he can do, and I think, when you only have to give the guy 13 carries and he can turn it into 20 points, that's pretty darn good. Speaking of another person that we were very interested to see play again, Leonard Fournette comes back after injury, and they immediately throw him into the fire.
24 carries.
I thought that maybe they would back off on that, kind of see how he's feeling, but 24 carries. It's like, and he only got 53 yards out of it, but he still had himself a day. He did well with 22.9 points in standard. Yeah,
and he was able to run one in, catch a touchdown. They're any player that gets this kind of volume, he's gonna get chances there. Jacksonville, though, is just not very good anymore, which is weird. But they just need to keep – the only chance they have is to just run the ball with Leonard Fournette. They can't do anything with Blake Bortles. They have to run the ball, so this is going to have to continue. But 24 for 53 looks pretty ugly. But he definitely salvaged it into a pretty good fantasy day. And then
I do have to ask, because I'll just stick in this game for now. They did play the Colts. And Mac will not show up on our leaders board by any means. He had 12 rushes for 29 yards, and then I think he added 2 catches for 9. What is your headspace when it comes to this? Is this a panic moment, or is this just, hey, this is what Mac does? It'll be one game. He should bounce back. How are you feeling about him?
Well, it's playing against Jacksonville, so that's tough. But when you really look at his schedule going forward here, playing Tennessee next week, it's not that easy. Look at Tennessee just did to New England today. And so that doesn't...
Good D.
Yeah, you're not very excited about that. Then he plays Jacksonville, or then he plays Miami, which, Miami, that's a game he can do well.
That was it. Yeah. Aaron? Jones, we just talked about him.
But then Jacksonville again for week 13. And then you go to the playoffs and you play Houston week 14. Houston's been pretty solid. So
you do have J.J. Watt and Clowney. So it's definitely not a clean road for him finishing up.
No, I think this is more of they played Jacksonville. It's tough, but the schedule doesn't look. They played Jacksonville again in a couple weeks, so it's a little scary in a way. Yeah, Tennessee's before this week they were the 5th best against running backs in fantasy, so it's another tough one. And if they don't need to run the ball, they'll just throw it with Andrew Luck and try to win that way. Yeah, so it's a little worrisome, I would say, just because of the schedule. And he's not matchup proof. That's for sure. How about LaShawn McCoy actually did something this week?
Okay, yeah, and then we had mentioned how weird Buffalo's game was, but yeah, he looked like McCoy of old, running all around. They gave him a ton of touches. I think at this point of the season, people were probably benching him. So, who knows? I mean, maybe you played him, maybe you didn't. There's definitely a chance that you did not. And if you didn't, those points are going to the wayside. I don't know. I don't know if this is something that I believe in.
I don't.
He's been slowly coming around. Yeah, he's been slowly coming along though. It's not like,
well, except for the last 3 weeks combined, he only had 24 yards.
Right, but I mean, also
on 24 carries.
And it's only the second time this year that he's gotten 20 carries or more. I mean, really, only the second time he's gotten over 16 carries. And anytime he gets a decent amount, he'll do okay. It's definitely not a touchdown guy anymore, just because of how poor the offense is. They don't get around the red zone a whole lot for him to help him out. But if you give him enough carries, he'll make it worth your while. He could get 10 fantasy points. That's not a big deal. But even with that, I don't think that they're going to keep giving him the ball near as much. I think this was a strange game, and Barkley performed, admirably. I just don't see that being the case moving forward.
Yeah, and I don't trust that team whatsoever. It's just a random game for them right now. It's weird. They shouldn't have put up 41 points. I don't see where that came from.
No, not to mention you have a bye and then you have Jacksonville, so they should come down to earth real quick.
Well, there's some other guys who did well, who just normally do well. Todd Gurley, another good game. Melvin Gordon, another good game. Zeke looked really good tonight against Philadelphia there with 151 rushing. So those guys, they should be good, and they were good. So that's nothing crazy. Some other guys, though, Derrick Henry was able to get 2 touchdowns to make his day pretty good. Again, he's not really getting much volume, and he's the goal line guy. He gets a lot of those kind of things.
I would say, yeah, not getting the volume, but 3 games in a row, all of a sudden he's getting touchdowns.
They'll give him the ball when they're close, so that makes him playable because of that. Kerryon Johnson got a rushing touchdown, receiving touchdown, made his day pretty respectable, even though the Lions just look pretty terrible. It's not a good team right now. I don't even care to watch them anymore. No need. We know what they are, right? Then Rashad Penny looked pretty good. Finally, we talked about him for a couple weeks on our waiver wire show. We'd just bring him up like at the end of the show, just to say maybe take a flyer on him because at some point Seattle might switch it up and use him. And the injury to Chris Carson kind of opened the door for him a little bit here. A lot of people were picking up Mike Davis, thinking, could be a Mike Davis day, which he didn't really do much, Well, I guess he did. He did fine. He didn't.
Yeah, he was fine.
He didn't get the volume like you would think he would. He didn't get that 20+ carries, which is what you expected when.
I thought that was interesting because Davis, you thought that he was going to get the bulk of the carry, but Penny and him split, right? Yep. Penny was just better on the carries he got. But Davis actually caught 4.
Receiving.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think they were pretty much the same.
Yeah,
they were.
Worked out in a way you didn't expect, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes it that much harder to predict and tell someone, to go and grab someone. I still don't know. I think the whole thing is, and the fact is Rashad Penny should be out there in a lot of leagues. So, once again, you can pick him up, but it might change as quick as the other ones have. So I don't know if I trust him, but he'll definitely jump up on waiver wire pickups and the whole situation continues.
And then some other, nothing really special around here. I mean, Tariq Cohen got himself a rushing touchdown, make his day useful. Duke Johnson got a receiving touchdown, which he's been useful now 2 weeks in a row. And he had 2 bad games in there, but I think they're gonna continue to try to use him a little bit. So, solid day. And Frank Gore is definitely the main back there in Miami, isn't he? He is. It's crazy. I mean, Kenyon Drake is just not getting any traction out there. You can't play Kenyon Drake, but you really can't play Frank Gore either. So you shouldn't do that. But how about the other disappointments here? Jordan Howard only 3.2 standard points. Sony Michel came back from injury. He only had 11 carries for 31. James White, 2.6 points in standard, 1 carry for -5 yards, 5 catches, 31. And there we go. There's the James White I've been talking about for weeks and weeks, and he only showed up once, but it doesn't mean I'm right. That's for sure. It's just one bad game. It was just a weird game.
This one actually, this one surprised me, and the reason it surprised me, I'm not surprised that he only got one attempt rushing, but I mean the fact that they were down, they got smoked by Tennessee. I mean 34-10. You would think in that situation White would shine because they have to get back in the game, and he would just they would start methodically moving down the field like they used to. But he was nowhere to be found. It was a very strange performance by Brady as well. They just weren't that good today.
No, it was a weird game. It's just one of those games, I guess. How about some wide receivers who had some good games? Tyreek Hill, 7 catches, 117 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So we got the big Tyreek Hill game, which we haven't had in a few weeks, and now it came back. And so this is his third really big game of the year, surrounded by the rest of them, which have been just okay. But you get this Tyreek Hill every once in a while. Now, what's he have now? 9 touchdowns though in the year, so he's going to be way up there because it's funny because he's going to have 3 just massive games. It's going to make him probably the number 1 receiver in the league this year. Probably be ranked number 1, but you have all these other ones where he's below 10 points, and he's been below 10 points 5 times in standard. So he's it's interesting, but you still got to play him, obviously. I mean, we're not saying that. Just he frustrates you. He just frustrates you because these games are in him.
And we talked about it too. I mean, when Thielen and him were battling out for the number 1 spot, which one would you rather have? Even if Tyreek Hill, which looks like he will at the moment, outscores him by a few points, can you take the highs and lows? And especially where you have to get Tyreek as well, or where you did have to get him. He had to have been one of the top picks. If this is a guy that's going to be a wide receiver too, the up and down is kind of, you can sustain that. But to pick a number 1 wide receiver and then have these highs and lows, it can be frustrating, like Craig was saying.
Well, then,
but today, not frustrating.
Then you got Allen Robinson had a huge game coming back from injury, 6 catches, 133 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
How interesting is that one?
Yeah, just big game there.
I know. I mean, definitely bigger than anything else he has done this year. He did have the one week 2. He had a 10 reception for 83 yards, which obviously, if you're in a PPR, that obviously did something for you. Otherwise, it's just an average game. But finally, 2 touchdowns. It really was. It was huge, and it was only off 6 catches. Moving forward, Chicago is starting to be difficult to figure out because they have so many different weapons between Jordan Howard, where they can, pound out the ball, Tariq Cohen, who is kind of the Swiss Army knife all over the place. Allen Robinson was supposed to be their wide receiver 1, like their, big play guy, their possession guy, like, kind of do it all wide receiver 1 with a bullet point. Is this his coming out party? Is he finally on the same page as Trubisky and healthy? Or is this just Detroit giving up a ton of yards?
It's partially Detroit just being bad, but I think this is just Chicago right now. This is what they do. Because, you got Anthony Miller here, 5 for 122 and a touchdown. And I think Chicago's just going to try to throw the ball around like this. And I think both Robinson and Miller are both going to be usable. And, I've talked about Anthony Miller a little bit, and I've been advocating picking him up off the waivers. And Jeff, you can actually attest to this. If you look at our league here, I played Anthony Miller against you this week.
Yeah, you did.
I actually started Anthony Miller, which you wouldn't have expected that Anthony Miller would, in a matchup we had, would outscore your Devontae Adams and Juju Smith-Schuster, both of them. Those guys had good games, and Anthony Miller still was better.
Yeah, he was.
I've been seeing this come on from Miller too, but I think it's just the Bears offense. I think you play Allen Robinson. I think you play Anthony Miller even. And you play Tariq Cohen, and you don't know what to do with Jordan Howard.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I really am. At no point in this year, at no point in the beginning of the year did I really think that the Bears were going to be such a dominant offense that I was going to be able to play multiple players. When you say to me, like, who do you feel like, who worries you the most? And I have to say Jordan Howard.
Yeah.
That is shocking to me. I thought he would be the only reliable one because they have to pound it out, and that defense, they would just rely on them.
No, they don't need
to. They're chucking it, man. They're chucking it all over the place. Trubisky has been playing great. So, yeah, another waiver wire pickup. I think that Anthony Miller will be available in a lot of different leagues.
Yep, he'll probably be one of the top on the list. Michael Thomas, another solid game, 8 catches, 70 yards, 2 touchdowns, looked pretty good. Then Corey Davis, you got the big Corey Davis game, only the second one of the year. 7 for 125 and touchdown. But I guess, it follows up last week, which wasn't great by any fantasy purposes, but 6 catches for 56 yards at least was the sign of something that he could get some catches, because before that he was getting 4, 1, 3. Nothing was happening. So at least that's there. But, we know this guy has the talent to do this. We just also know it's not going to probably happen every week. It's just kind of a tease right now.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's true. I love Corey Davis, but in this offense, there's just no way. Mariota is not the quarterback he needs to be. He had a nice game today, but even with that, he only attempted 24 passes. They were very efficient.
Yep.
That will go back down.
I guess I got kind of lucky with some of my wide receiver starts this week. In that Twitter, Instagram league I'm a part of, I started Corey Davis this week. Kind of worked.
Yeah, I had to start him in the Scott Fish Bowl too.
Right. So. It was just only because Stephon Diggs was on bye and injury. That's it. But it worked out. It actually worked out pretty well. Devontae Adams, 2 touchdowns, only 4 catches for 57 yards, but got 2 touchdowns out of it. Brandon Cooks, 10 catches, 100 yards, ran one in. And now with the Cooper Kupp injury, which looks like it's probably an ACL, the targets are only really going to go to Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods now. That's going to take away maybe from some of the volatility in his numbers, because it's going to have to go to one of the two most likely. Cooks, Woods, one of the two. So Cooks he's been good. He was 13th before this week in standard scoring wide receivers, and I think he'll just continue to do that.
Yeah, and he does have a bye week 12, but you have KC and then you have Detroit afterwards, so it is looking very promising for him for the next few weeks. And then, unfortunately, you hit Chicago and Philly, but still.
Say Julio got another touchdown, 7 for 107.
Yeah, 2 in a row.
This was.
It feels weird congratulating Julio because he's so good, but it's 2 in a row. Way to go, big guy! Fist pound.
Well, they looked for him. It was on the 1 yard line, and they just threw it to Julio to get him in the just on the line of scrimmage and had him get in there. So they,
every time you look at his numbers too, touchdown finally, but his numbers are crazy to look at because I don't know how he's outside the top 10. He won't be after this week, but outside the top 10 of wide receivers, he was number 11 officially coming into here. And he had, more games over 100 yards than under. It's mind blowing how good he is and how he couldn't get into the end zone. So if this continues where even every third game he gets into the end zone, it's the Julio that we love and definitely putting up the points that everyone thought he would.
Then how about, Zay Jones, a name from last year preseason?
Zay.
8 for 93 to touchdown. How about that?
Yeah, good to go along with Buffalo's amazing game.
Hey, shoot, the last 3 weeks he has 18 catches on the last 3 weeks now. Last week was only 4 for 18, but the week before was 6 for 55.
Yeah, I was I think we're skewing that stat in his favor.
He's coming slightly, relevant, but still not actually relevant. You know what I mean? So, one of those kind of players. But hey, it's interesting. Didn't think I'd see his name around here. Kenny Galladay got himself a touchdown catch, which was nice to see after 3 weeks of pretty much nothing. And, I still think the guy has all the talent in the world. We'll see if Detroit could figure out how to use it.
Yeah, and in a game where they didn't do very well, so that was definitely a highlight.
Keenan Allen got himself a touchdown catch to make a decent day there. So now, not great, but he's hopefully coming on a little bit. Then, Julian Edelman, 9 for 104 he had a 9 for 104 2 weeks ago as well. He's up there every week, around this 10, 11 point mark. He doesn't go crazy, but he's, at least making himself very usable. And then looking at this, who the heck is Robert Foster?
Yeah, everyone on Buffalo was just, playing out of their mind today. I don't know who he is either, I'll be honest. And 3 for 105. Dude, maybe, who knows? Maybe Buffalo, maybe Barkley really is magic, and that's all they needed.
Right.
They just needed a quarterback to lead them.
And then, Chris Godwin had a nice game, 7 for 103. It was definitely pretty solid there because he hadn't done much since the first 3 weeks he had touchdowns. Then he did nothing week 4. Then the bye came back from Atlanta, scored a touchdown, but then it had been 3 weeks of just kind of existing out there a little bit, not much happening. Nice to see him get involved again. Better days than Deshaun Jackson, better day than Mike Evans. That's actually 2 weeks in a row he's been better than Mike Evans. Evans has had 2 poor weeks in a row, only 4 catches for 67 yards in 2 weeks, which you never know with the Tampa Bay offense. They can throw the ball to a lot of people. They can throw it to Godwin, Evans, Jackson, Howard, Humphreys. It can go anywhere.
Which is, we can jump a little bit to Evans, who you just mentioned. Obviously, a day to forget. He wasn't, absolutely terrible, but 51 yards on 3 catches. Didn't go his way again. Second straight week in a row. Obviously, the 2 weeks before that, huge, right? Over 100 yards each, has a touchdown in one of them. But 1 catch and then 3. I don't know. Is this starting to worry you, or is this just what is going to be?
A little bit. He actually, it looked like he pretty much dropped the touchdown too. He should have had. And yeah, it's a little bit worrisome. This has been a thing that Mike Evans has kind of done the last couple of years here. He has these kind of games. Earlier in the year, he had 2 weeks. He had a 6 for 59 and a 4 for 58. After he had some good games to start, he had 2 poor games, had 2 good games, 2 poor games. So hopefully now playing the Giants, playing San Francisco, those are 2 games hopefully he should do pretty well with, you would think. But he's not this. That's why he ends up being around the 10th best wide receiver, because he's not doing it every single week, and he does this 1 for 16, 3 for 51 stuff here. So...
yeah, what worries me is the fact that he's going to have his 2 lowest reception games right in a row.
Yep.
And it always feels like as soon as there's any volatility in the quarterback position, he did it last year too when Winston went out. That's when he kind of closes up shop. And I don't know what that is about, but it just seems to be a trend at the moment.
Yeah, it kind of does. And I don't know, that was just a bad game though overall for Tampa. Only 3 points.
That's true. It was a bad game.
Quickly, I'll just say this, but then Maurice Harris, who came onto our radar last week, we'd never basically heard of this guy. So, hey, he got 5 for 52. And that, he's
not bad.
He's definitely
really
usable. He's he's involved. So keep watching him. It's just interesting. Some guy just comes basically felt like out of nowhere, but he'd been getting a couple catches a game before that. Then let's see, got any other bad games here? Probably
bad.
Okay,
there's a bunch of bad, but
Tyler Boyd. People expected Tyler Boyd to just go off now without AJ Green there, but he only had 4 targets, and that overall that offense looked pretty poor. Andy Dalton couldn't do much. It's AJ Green means pretty much everything to that offense. It looks like that's at least from the first game without him makes it seem.
Yeah, you definitely do have to key on him, so he does take a lot of pressure off everyone else on the offense. I don't know if this is going to be a continuing theme of, hey, we're going to struggle without AJ. I for some reason, I don't think so. I think it was just this week being as strange as it was for games and teams either being really good or really bad. I think they'll bounce back a little bit. And I expect Boyd to bounce back as well.
Then some tight ends here. Zach Ertz had a big game, which isn't terribly surprising, but 14 catches, 145 yards, 2 touchdowns off 16 targets. That is a massive game. And him and Kelsey are the top 2 tight ends is pretty much right now. Kelsey slightly disappointing, I guess you could say, but 6 for 46. Just didn't. It was an odd game for Kansas City, but he was fine. Then, see, Ebron 3 touchdowns. What the heck?
Yeah,
one of them he ran in. He caught 3 balls for 69 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Well,
only had 3 targets.
I know his touchdown rate right now is out of control. I don't know what I was listening to, but he's actually on pace where he could rival Gronk for his tight end touchdown record for the year. What the F, man? Like,
right?
Like, as a Detroit fan, it gets me incredibly upset. We're gonna go back to just being angry about it. Ebron.
Detroit could use a good tight end actually right now. They really could. It's sad, but they could use him.
Yeah.
I say his teammate there, Jack Doyle. We thought maybe he was the one who's going to do well coming, after he had a good game before their bye, but only 3 for 36. And honestly, the tight end position here, there's not a lot here.
So bad.
I mean, you could look at Austin Hooper getting the 10 catches. He got a touchdown out of it, so that's a pretty solid game. But his 10 catches only turned into 56 yards. But Austin Hooper's becoming if he's going to get targets like that, he's one of the other main options because there's just nothing else there. Jonnu Smith caught a touchdown, so he jumps up here. Vance McDonald caught a touchdown, so he's up here. There's just nothing. Then Mo Alley Cox, Tyler Higbee, Gerald Everett, Jesse James, Nick Vannett. Look at Jesse James and Nick Vannett, both 1 catch for 8 yards and a touchdown. Man, there's just nothing here. Jason Kroom shows up on the list because he recovered a fumble for a touchdown. He happens to be a tight end. Just ugly.
Right.
Ugly.
That tells you a lot when Jonnu Smith from Tennessee, he has 3 catches for 45 yards and a touchdown, and he ranks as the 4th best tight end. I mean, it really is. It's just tight end is so shallow this year. I mean, even the fact that Travis Kelce, obviously, he was ranked, I don't even know at this moment, this week, he was probably like 15th or something. But, 6 catches for 46 yards, and you're kind of like, yeah, I'll take that. Like, that doesn't hurt me.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing.
I'd rather have that than you'd rather Jimmy Graham 1 for 14, or O.J. Howard 1 for 15, or David Njoku 1 for 18. Yeah. Bad games all around for those guys.
And I know a lot of people, that Jack Doyle as well, he didn't, he had 36 yards on 3 catches. We thought maybe he would take away from Eric Ebron, but I think that was the craziest part. Ebron only had 3 catches as well, but where he actually caught the ball and the fact that they try to get him involved running it as well is got to make you a little worried about using Doyle, or you think that is going to be still 50-50? It just was Ebron's night.
Yeah, if you're in a situation where you're considering starting Jack Doyle, you might as well, because you probably don't have any other options anyway. I don't know.
Good point.
What else you're going to do? What else are you going to do at this point? So, yeah, start him. That's fine. How about some quarterbacks here quick? Trubisky, we talked about him earlier. 42 points standard. Just, he's been good. He'll be a top 10 quarterback now in the year. Last week, I think we got kind of scared off with only 10 points, but that was just the Buffalo game. They just dominated. They didn't need him to do anything. And really, take away those first 3 weeks, he's been really, really good. And we'll see how he does, though, against Minnesota. But then he gets Detroit again. Should have another good one in that game.
Is this Pat Mahomes' first week outside the top 10, or maybe the second?
Yeah, I think it probably is. And he's 24.1.
No, it still did really well. Yeah. Crazy. And
he had 15.8 when he played Jacksonville week 5. That was his worst.
Oh, yep, that is.
Yep.
But it really, there's nothing that mind-blowing about who was up here, who scored a lot of points. It kind of
Baker
goes
Mayfield
to show who
keeps playing really well.
He's the only. Well, there's 2 guys. Well, actually, there's 3. I completely lied. Forget what I said. But yeah, Baker is definitely the one that he's continuing to improve. He did very, very well against Atlanta. Obviously, they're pretty porous when it comes to, their secondary at times. But that is good to see, and especially moving forward, it's someone that I do believe in a little bit more, even though, he had the good matchup. But the fact is he's using Duke Johnson. He's using other weapons that are easier to pass to and will give him quicker releases than kind of waiting around for, say, Landry or Callaway or any of the other wide receivers that are trying to get open. But I think between, Duke Johnson and Njoku, I think they do give him enough of kind of different looks in order to help him out. So I think he's finally got to that place where I feel comfortable thinking on an average defense, he can go out and give me 20 points.
I feel like we might actually be underrating Russell Wilson now. If you pull up Russell Wilson's numbers and look at his last 5 games, guy's been pretty good.
He has. Since week 5, he's been, well, I don't even want to say playable. I think that's downgrading a little bit. He's been very, very good. And that is against not bad defenses either.
Yeah.
2 of those are against the Rams, and he torched them.
Yeah, and we don't talk about Russell Wilson much at all. Kind of just downgrade him on our ranks. But hey, he's actually been pretty good. We might have to rethink that one.
Yeah, and I mean, really, who is he throwing to? I actually want to look this up because it obviously isn't Baldwin. I mean,
right?
Yeah,
Nick Vannett got a touchdown I know tonight.
Yeah,
today.
I mean that's was second in 2 games or second in 3.
Yeah, it's
who did catch it? I mean, Lockett has been pretty solid, but other than that, he's just spraying the ball out, and then obviously he runs the ball like a crazy man.
Yeah, he got those 92 yards.
9 carries for 92 yards. That's huge. But I mean, he finds the end zone, 3 passing touchdowns. Davis, Vannett, and Lockett. So Davis once again finding the end zone.
So, do we need to actually downgrade Aaron Rodgers? I mean, he's just we plug him in up at the top of the ranks. Behind Mahomes recently, but usually
we
second.
do always plug him in.
But
I don't know. I mean, I'm not ready to completely take him off because I thought he had a bad game and he still got 22 points. But it's not a guaranteed thing. I mean, he does have 3 weeks under 20.
Yep.
The last 2 weeks, New England, we kind of gave him a pass, 23 yards against, New England, which is somewhat difficult to play against sometimes at New England. But Miami, I feel like that shouldn't have been that difficult of a game. And he didn't actually. He got 199 yards, 2 touchdowns. I don't know. What do you think is going on with this?
I don't think the team's great. And Jones was able to do a lot today. I mean, they're a fine team, but they're not maybe his receivers aren't probably as good as normal. Adams is great, but the next options, you got a Randall Cobb who isn't the same Randall Cobb. I mean, MVS is pretty decent, but he's not, he's not special. Maybe that's just part of it where he's just, Rodgers is still top 5, but it's not like, even he's still top 5. He hasn't been playing like that necessarily, but he is. He's top 5 guy. But yeah, it's weird. He's not this like sure thing 30-some point game every week for you anymore. And hopefully that changes. We'll see.
I hope. I mean, I was gonna say I liked his schedule kind of moving forward, but the only issue, and he does have a good one that would be like 14 and 16 week where you're kind of in the playoffs, but he does hit week 15 right in the heart of the playoffs if you're using him. He does hit Chicago in Chicago, which is a little worrisome, especially when he has been playing as well as we'd like him to. I don't know. I mean, in that case, usually you would just say plug and play. But if you hit him and you're in the playoffs, week 15 at Chicago, are you considering someone else?
No, I can't. I mean, would you you think in the same matchup like a Trubisky? Like, would you play Trubisky?
Well, I mean,
no, you can't do it.
I would say no, but it's got to enter your head a little bit. I mean, the way Trubisky is playing, the Green Bay is not, that great at home.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't think I would do it. I don't think I could do it at this point in the season. But it's got to kind of, or I mean, what if you had I don't know. I mean, what if you had a Russell Wilson?
Yeah,
I don't know why you have both of those guys.
You have to throw Rodgers in. You have to throw him in and just call it good. You don't think about it.
You're right.
You don't think about it.
I guess someone like Goff or something would be more of an interesting
really. Goff is the one. So I'm thinking of for this week, I'm thinking early for ranks. Okay. Mahomes has to go ahead of him. I think Goff has to go ahead of him. For sure. Goff, I mean, that Kansas City versus Rams matchup, it's going to be some points, hopefully, put on the board there. I think you have to put Goff ahead of him. I mean, you probably even, I don't know, those two for sure. So he's at least 3. Let's see, who's Drew Brees play? Plays Philly? Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know, it's an interesting, and he has Rodgers going to play at Seattle. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll find out. I'm gonna have to think on that one. But yeah, finally, I mean, Aaron Rodgers. This might be the first time that I've lost a little faith.
Yeah, I mean, he's still going to be fine. He's just not, going to be
right. I mean,
that changes.
He's not bad.
He's not a difference maker. I'll say right now.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Here's one guy who's definitely not a difference maker, and it's kind of really should be worried. Is actually Tom Brady.
He's just been bad the last 3 games.
Yeah, okay, so he has a bye this week, so you're not playing him anyway. But 10.8 today, 17.7 last week, 13.8 the week before. That's 3 games in a row where he's not done much. And he plays at the Jets, which the Jets are weird. They've had some good defensive games, and then they did what they did today against Buffalo. So who knows? Then Minnesota, though, that's not anything easy. But yeah, Tom Brady. I mean, I guess is this just no Gronk? Is this what this means?
I think it's part of it. I mean, I'm not going to lie either. Buffalo and Tennessee are two good defenses that he played at their home field. That should definitely come into your thinking when you're saying, is Tom Brady as bad as he has shown the past 3 weeks? No, not quite. I mean, two of those teams are legit, like defensively. But because of that, it also shows that he is not, bulletproof. And he does play Buffalo. If you make it to the finals, he plays them week 16. And, I asked Craig about the Rodgers thing, but I'm serious on that one. Buffalo has played well enough where I'd be looking for another option perhaps because I would not feel comfortable
definitely
having Tom Brady there.
Definitely. There's definitely players I'd be playing over. I'm sure I'd probably play Baker Mayfield over him playing against Cincinnati in week 16 if you got to that point. I might honestly consider that. Cincinnati's been really bad against the pass. I think I'd play Baker Mayfield over Tom Brady in a championship game.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy to think.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's got to be better options.
One guy who's not a better option is freaking Andy Dalton. My God, that guy. I started him today.
Oh, yeah. Well, 2 out of the past 3 have been really brutal.
In both of those were actually
less than 10
matchups
points.
He thought he should have done pretty good.
It's the strangest part of it. Yeah, he should. And now he's going to go against Baltimore. Watch, he'll do really well against them for no reason.
The Saints were the second worst against quarterbacks in fantasy scoring. And he just oh man.
It was a weird day. Buffalo couldn't score on anyone either.
He was outscored by his backup, Jeff Driscoll.
Oh, Dalton, you are on a love-hate list all on your own.
Crazy.
Can never figure out.
But all right. I don't got much more. I think that's it for me for today. Yeah, cover a lot of stuff.
The Fitzpatrick too. The last thing that I have to say, I gave this guy props.
He threw 400 yards.
If he plays, how do you 400 yards and no touchdown? I was like watching this game and I'm like, this is impossible. I don't know how you're doing this.
It's kind of okay. His numbers are very interesting. Where he actually if you knew a guy was going to come into a game, not throw a touchdown, he's going to throw 2 picks, and yet he's going to outscore Tom Brady.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Right? Oh my gosh, today was so brutal.
His team's going to score.
Really was incredible.
Like Fitzpatrick, his team's going to score 3 points. He's going to outscore Brady. Just crazy. And he's going to outscore Andy Dalton, who did throw a touchdown. God, weird day. It's weird. It was a weird day.
It was a weird day, and even more so, it has huge implications on your fantasy layout, how you're going down. I mean, most leagues, I believe you have 3 games left, 2 games left?
Yeah, 3 games left, probably.
So, man, kind of getting into that mode where we're thinking about how to set your team up for playoffs. So those episodes will be coming up. But if you have any more questions, feel free, send them our way. It's time to kind of clamp down and get to the playoffs and figure out what we're doing here.
Well, one of my beautiful strategies for that was going to be pick up all the defenses that play against Buffalo.
And I had listened to you, and now I'm kind of worried.
Well, that was me again today. I started Andy Dalton. I started the Jets defense. So between Andy Dalton and the Jets defense, I scored 2.7 points combined. If you combine those 2, yeah, I still might win. Crazy. Thank you, Zeke.
The beauty of fantasy football.
Thank you, Zeke. That's all I can say.
But, yeah, I hate you, Zeke.
All right. I think that's going to do it then. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk about some waivers. Talk to you guys then.